So you got the knowledge down, you build out your process. The next step is getting people in to help you to deliver this service. Even from the beginning, if you just have one client, SEO is something that's very difficult to do end to end, because as I showed you, when we're talking about mapping out roles and responsibilities, link building, organizational skills, communication skills, SEO skills, you might be able to do them all, but you'll function a lot better if you've got people that can help you out to get this done. And as you're going to see, as you grow and scale, SEO becomes less about the tactics and much more about managing those people. It's much more of a practice of HR than it is of SEO prowess and skill set. That's why I kind of always chuckle to myself when I see CEOs of agencies on Twitter bickering back and forth about the proper terminology for SEO stuff. It doesn't matter, man. This is a fun slide. I included this one is Gary Vaynerchuk. I know a lot of you guys in the SEO industries despise him for whatever reason. I like him. I respect him. I think he's a really smart executive. He knows how to grow really large organizations, especially agencies, in a very short period of time. So there's something to be learned from him. Whether you like his delivery or not is up to you. But he has a quote that says, anyone who says they're good at hiring is full of shit. And I couldn't agree with that more, because at the end of the day, man, hiring is a crapshoot. I've tried to hire hundreds of people over the past 10 years, and only a few of them kind of sift out and pan to the top. And there's different strategies for hiring. I'm not going to go into necessarily the exact questions you have to ask people, but you just have to understand where it is your agency's at. Are you at a point where you can pay more experienced folks to come in and handle the process and service for you? The challenge with that sometimes is that if you do hire an experienced advanced SEO, then their ideas on what SEO should be, it might not align to what your process says it could be. And that's kind of been a problem for me in the past, is that I feel like I know what I'm doing with SEO. And if I bring in someone who's extremely talented from the outside and they're doing things a different way because they don't agree with what I'm doing, and again, SEO is very opinion based for whatever reason, because there's no set guidelines on how to do this stuff, it can be detrimental to the company. So my strategy has always been to hire less experienced folks, bring them in, train them, get them trained on our systems, our processes, and then let them build on top of that process. That's key, right? Is getting somebody in that's not going to chop up your process and be like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, but build and iterate on top of it, right? If you have a process that you know works, you don't necessarily need to blow it up and then go back to the beginning. You want to do, like I said in the previous videos, continuously build and iterate on that process. That means there might be some things wrong with it. It's great to get outside opinion, and it's great to tap your employees. I do it all the time. I have one person who basically runs our service, and I rely on him completely now to work on the process and continuously improve it without my input, because I know he's capable of doing so. But if it's your first hire coming in and they're tearing everything down, it's just going to slow you down, right? So this is just my opinion. I like to hire cheap, local, bring them in-house, train them on our way to do things. And within 6 months to a year, they're monsters and they're amazing, and they take the company a lot further than I could have on my own. So I also am a big proponent of offshoring. I talked briefly about this before, but we have our system set up to be doers and reviewers. The doers are generally the folks offshore, and we highly specifically give them only one thing to do, like keyword research. That person is only responsible for keyword research, and they're managed by a local person. I'm going to show you how this breaks down right now. And I want to show you this starting from the very beginning if you have no employees. The beginning, you got to be Superman. Everything is going to come under you. It's going to be service delivery. You're going to have to manage your communications, your project plans, your sales, your marketing, and finance. It's just the way it is, until you get to a certain point in regards to cash coming in, being able to forecast enough in your pipeline to be able to hire people and bring them in and support them fully. But what I like to do here is, instead of looking at salary from an annual point of view, I like to look at it from a monthly point of view, because at the agency level, things are really affected month to month. Your clients could be going month to month, 6-month contracts. You've got to be able to look at things on a much shorter period and shorter scale. And also, too, the good thing about the market that we're in right now and where we're going with just kind of how our younger people and younger generation is that they're okay being contractors. So they're a lot easier to manage at a month-to-month level. So I like to look at these salary ranges at a month-to-month level. And this is important because I'm going to show you right now how we can build and really go out and hire our first people. So I have two different scenarios here. I have one based on if you have 5 clients. Both are doing 10K in revenue, but one is if you have 5 clients, the average retainer at 2,000. Another is if you have 2 clients, average retainer at 5,000. So if you're a little bit more experienced, you're down here. If you're just getting started, you're up here. And maybe this is 10 clients at 1,000. Whatever that may be, this is really where I think you get to 10,000 in revenue. And this is where you really, really need to start considering hiring somebody full-time. So when should you make your first hire? And I like to say is when you're at a breaking point or an inflection point. So when your time is overloaded, when you're losing your mental sanity, when you just hate something that you're doing. So who should you hire? This feeds into who you should hire first. So first of all, hires are an investment in your business, right? You're doing that. You're hiring somebody, especially at this point, to free up your time to focus on bigger tasks. So if you're still doing menial tasks, if you're doing something that you hate, like if you really don't like client communications, if you don't like managing a project plan, then go hire a PM first, right? There's nothing wrong with hiring somebody to help you out on the managerial side from an organizational point of view, emailing. That person has to have a little bit more of a larger scope than they would at a larger agency. Like, for example, when we hire a project or account manager now at our agency, their role is a lot more focused. We're not asking them to do anything on service delivery. We're asking them to manage a much more focused silo of things. But when you're just getting started, just like you got to be Superman, you really got to bring someone in who has an acceptable mindset to take on a little bit more of a role outside of the scope of what it might normally be. And of course, the benefit for them is as you grow, they'll get more responsibility. Like I said, my first hire, Caesar, he's been with me for 4 or 5 years. He's a beast. He's now, pretty high up in From the Future, and he's doing much better than he did, and he's had that growth pattern because he was with me. So that person will always be taken care of. But if you hate doing SEO, if you don't like doing the service delivery, go out and hire somebody to help you with service delivery support. So, and that doesn't necessarily mean if you hate doing SEO. It more means that if you are better at organization and you're better at managing a project plan, go hire somebody to execute that project plan. But in regards to your first hire, I would always go with those two people. Some people might go tell you to hire a salesperson, but in my personal opinion, you as the business owner need to learn how to sell. That is your job as a small business owner, is to bring in customers to pay for your business. Really, that's it. So if you're shitty at sales, you need to figure it out. And we have a whole module that's going to help you out with that. But in regards to your first hire, I strongly recommend either hiring somebody to help you out with service execution or a project or account manager. And both of those people should be low cost, entry level, minimal skill set, because you have the time now to train them, to work with them one-on-one, to groom them. You also have the blueprint to give to them to train them, as opposed to going out and hire an experienced hire for 80K. Who's also going to be dead set in doing things their ways. I strongly recommend you get a low-cost analyst locally to help you out. At the same time, what you're going to want to be doing is definitely leveraging offshore people. So I strongly, again, support you start as early as possible. Once you get your first client, I would go on Upwork and I would hire someone to help you out with very specific things. Start building your offshore pool of talent. So as you grow, they're going to be there that your other team can rely on to help them out. Again, scale their time, be more productive. I also forgot to cover it, but over here is just kind of your basic monthly expenses. You just want to make sure you're taking into account expenses, obviously, before you go out and make a hire. And again, like I said, in this module, we've got something that's going to help you out with all this. So don't pay too much attention to this now. Again, your rent may be nothing, you may be higher, whatever it may be. This is just kind of placeholder stuff. So how much should you pay? Initial hires should be hungry entry-level people who are willing to learn. I just kind of alluded to this. But that means you need to put in the time to train them. And again, I already covered this point. So how much should you pay? Again, it's dependent on where you are. It's dependent on their experience, but definitely hedge towards a lower cost entry-level person for your first hire. So should you go local, offshore, or outsource? So as I said, again, I like to use offshore talent to supplement specific pieces of a puzzle, but never a full role. So again, when we're at the point where you're here overloaded, you need somebody local. You need somebody local to help you out. I promise you, once you get that first person in, you see what they can do. I know it's hard. I know it's scary to bring someone in and put a lot of trust and pay them a lot of money, especially when it's coming out of your own pocket. But you've got to take that leap. Again, it's an investment. It's an investment in your business. And when you get the right person in, I promise you, it will change the trajectory of your business. So we want to supplement specific tasks with offshore talent, but we don't want to be like, go hire a full-time SEO analyst that's outside the office, that's overseas, that you don't have much control over whether or not they're going to show up. You just don't want to go down that route. Also, anything communications based should always be local. Do not ever hire an offshore PM or account manager. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. They should always be local in the office, fluent in the language of you and your clients. What should you outsource? I like to outsource finance and bookkeeping until you get to a certain size. Again, this is just something that's going to take up way too much of your time. It's just not worth it. Even if you are a financial minded person, go hire a bookkeeper, just contract, CPA, somebody, a firm to help you out with this stuff. That's definitely what you want to outsource. So local communications, a full-time analyst, offshore, supplemental work, outsource, things like finance, things that are important, but you just don't have the time to do. So some more thoughts on hiring. So what should you look for in a new hire? This is really important. I can't answer this for you. It really depends on you. It depends on the agency and the culture that you want to build, the type of people that you want to have surrounded around you. I'm a big person. I believe in a personality fit as opposed to a skills fit. I believe because of the trainings that we have, because of my ability to work with people, that I can bring in people who have a lesser skill set in SEO, but are a better fit to just people that I want to be around and sit in a small room with, that are going to jive with the people that I have, that are going to be there for the long term, people that want to grow, people that are hungry, people that I can tell one thing and they'll go and figure the rest out. Those are the people I want to bring in. But the bottom line here is no one knows how to do this. There's a lot of different thought process on hiring, but like people lie. People are going to put stuff on their resume. They're going to lie. I've lied on my resumes. They're going to do it. And they're unpredictable. They might show up to an interview and knock out of the park, and then they show up to the office and they suck. They're always late, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So the point here is, I know it's kind of cliche and I know it's not the nice thing to say, but hire fast and fire faster. Especially at the startup rate, you don't have to apologize for running a business. I know it's hard. I know it sucks firing people. I know it's not morally okay in some way, but it is what it is, man. This is about the business. It's about what's doing best for the business. And if the person's not a good fit, they're probably not happy there anyways. Just get rid of them and find another person. So where can you hire from? If you're going offshore, just use Upwork. It's where I get all my people from. There's more than enough talent there. For local, use job boards, go to networking events, hit up people that you know, post it on your Instagram account, use LinkedIn. It doesn't matter. Just get the word out, bring people in, interview them. I'm not even going to tell you how to interview people. Interview them how you want, like I said, on what you see fit for your agency, and bring in people that you like. So what about benefits? What about 1099ing? So benefits, yes, once you get to a certain point, again, I already alluded to this, is that the younger generation is really cool. I actually at Webrish, all of my employees, we had 10, they were all 1099s. They actually chose to remain contractors because I encouraged them to go off and do their own thing, their own side projects. So they liked being 1099s because it was easier to manage their taxes. They also thought they made more money. But really it saved the company a lot of money because I didn't have to pay payroll taxes on those people. There's a gray area there. You don't want to go down that route of having 100 employees, all 1099s. It's technically, I don't want to say not legal, but you definitely want to consult a CPA on that. But again, you'll hit a certain point where when you want to build a company with a culture where you want to attract the right talent, once you get to a certain level, again, I can't tell you what that is. That's up to you. Where you're going to want to offer benefits. It's more expensive. You're going to have to pay payroll taxes, but you're going to get better talent in. It is what it is. So with that being said, let's look at some more scenarios for growth of you as an agency. So now let's say you've got 10 clients. Your average retainer is $2,500 a month and you're doing $25K a month in monthly revenue. Of course, your expenses go up. So now let's look at you. I put sales and marketing on you. Even at this point, a lot of your time should be spent selling. Again, I'm putting these two together too, because you're not at the point where you can distinguish between sales and marketing. They're one and the same. The point here is this really means getting new business in the door, and that's on your back. A lot with the other things that comes with running an agency, that's on your back. Get new clients in the door. What you, again, want to push off would be finance. Get it off up there. That's still at your level, but I strongly recommend you just outsource that. So let's look at what your payroll could be. I have you taking pay here. Again, that's up to you. At this point, you can definitely afford it. But I like to take this out last. So what I like to calculate first is, again, I like to bring in, I'd say we have an analyst here. We got 3 offshore people underneath them. That's something, again, that I'm really big on. Bring those people in early, get them trained up. They can actually help you break in a new local employee. And this allows this person to scale. And we're going to talk about utilization rates in the next video. And the more time that this person has, the more that you can bill for their time, the more capabilities they have, the lower the utilization rate is, because they're getting these people to do a lot of the legwork for them. Your profitability goes through the roof, and your capacity to do work goes through the roof. At this point too, I also strongly recommend that you have an AM or PM with this number of clients for you to have to talk to them all, for you to have to kind of manage the service. It's just too much. I'd strongly recommend getting an account person or a project manager in as soon as you can. This is probably my biggest mistake, was not getting this person in earlier. So let's look at one more scenario here. So let's say you have 20 clients now. You're doing $50,000 a month of revenue. Your expenses go up. what would a scenario look like? So here's you up top. Again, I still recommend that these things stay up here with you. You might want to consider bringing a finance person in at this time. I actually, at Weber's, when we were doing about 50,000, I brought in a full-time kid as a contractor, 1099. I paid about $2,000 a month to do our bookkeeping day to day, manage our expenses, all those link building costs coming in and out. I really wanted to have a good feel for that. Your books become very, very important at this point. Running an agency, once you've got a steady lead flow, a lot of this becomes old school business management where, we're looking at the numbers, we're doing forecasts, which again, we're going to talk about more in this module. So at this point, I like to have a strategist, somebody who's basically the manager level at the SEO or your service delivery, a couple of AM and PMs in this point. I like to have two. You can set a threshold here for how many clients one account manager can handle. We're going to talk about that in the next video when it comes to utilization rates for how you can figure that out. But you're going to want to understand basically how much load, how much utilization can one person handle in regards to hours, in regards to clients, or just clients if you're not on hours. But I'm going to sell you hard on why you need to go hours for that purpose. Because if you're not tracking hours, how do you know what the utilization is? How do you know how much work they can handle? And how do you know what your profitability is on each of these seats here? It's really important. So then this is where I start to like to build out that department hierarchy that I said. Got two analysts supporting the strategist, and of course, all these offshore people at this point. You're also going to get to a point too. I'll say this. At From the Future, we're doing 10 times this a month. And we've really kind of gotten away. We still use offshore people, but not as much. We're hedging more now on analysts, because what happens is that, again, like if you just want to run $1 million agency at 50%, 60% margins, do it, bro. Like I'm telling you, you don't want to get to that headache level. That's fine. But basically what's going to happen is as you get to a certain point, you realize you're going to have to start working with bigger and bigger and bigger clients, higher retainers, charging more, which means you need better people in, which means, you can afford to hire more local people. More local people are better because, again, you have more control over them. Offshore people are really good because if you can find reliable ones, you're a lot more profitable on it and you can scale a lot faster. But you get to a certain point where these people start getting hired a lot more than these people. So this is really at that point for us where we're starting to hire more local people in relation to offshore people. We still use them. They're still really important. But we're just hiring with a different strategy now. So my final thoughts here on hiring, the point is that people are a critical aspect of growth and scaling. You cannot grow without people. You can't. If you try to do it all yourself, you're a consultant, you don't have an agency, no matter what you put on your website. If you have a proper process and internal training in place, it goes a long way to get the right blocks to get things done properly. So again, if you try and hire someone and they show up on day one and they're like, what do I do? And you're like, do keyword research. They're going to be like, okay, let me go to Moz. Like they're going to figure it out on their own instead of doing it the way that your clients needed to get done, which is going to get results. That's why processing is so important. And it makes the employee happier too. Employee doesn't want to show up on day one and have to figure things out. They want to show up with a list of things that they know they need to do with their responsibilities, their role. They want to feel like they're a part of the organization, not like, hey, we just hired you, figure it out. That's not their job. That's your job. And you want to focus on hiring people who can think for themselves and solve problems. If you have to handle everything yourself, you can't move forward. So if you micromanage your people, if you don't let them figure problems out for themselves, then they're never going to grow, right? It's the same way with anything in life. You can see my dog running around back here. If he doesn't figure things out for himself, he's never going to learn, right? If I don't continuously work with him and correct him, he's never going to learn. He's going to keep pissing on my furniture and all that stuff. That's a terrible analogy. Your employees are not like dogs, but it's a very similar kind of thought process because my dog is running around back here driving me crazy. Is that let them think, let them solve problems, let them be themselves, let them grow into that position, let them make mistakes. At the end of the day, nothing that we're doing, we're not doing heart surgery here, right? We're doing keyword research and things that they're not even urgent, right? So let them make mistakes, let them figure things out and work with them, encourage them, give them a supportive environment, let them feel like this is a place that they want to show up to every day. That's so important, guys. It's so, so important. That way you can finally take a vacation, do whatever you want, and truly pull yourself out of the business. So that's service, process, and people. In the next and final video, I'm going to be giving you that one lead generation tactic that you can take, scale, and blow out with no money invested that anyone can do. So I'll see you guys in that video.